Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel here on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. I got a bunch more questions from Melman Mandela. This is quickly becoming a theme. I'm always happy to answer weird questions or whatever. These are good questions. So, first one being, if I had lived in San Francisco, would I have voted for Jello? Now, what he's talking about there is in the 80s, Jello Biafra, singer of the Dead Kennedys, ran for mayor, I think. I think that was the title. And sure, if I was able to, I probably would have, because I'm not one much for politicians, but if the singer of the Dead Kennedys wants to be mayor, I can't see that being any worse than anything else going on. So, sure thing. We had a similar thing happen in Toronto. Steve Goof of the bunch of fucking goofs, Steve Johnson, his name, ran for city alderman somewhere around the same time. So, do I like the sound of a Hammond B3 organ? Yes, I do. I love the sound of a Hammond B3 organ. I think it adds the extra grease to the wheels for any good garage band. We acquired an actual Hammond B3 for the Silverhearts, but we couldn't transport it anywhere, so it just stayed where we practice sometimes. But yeah, I love it. Do I prefer cake or pie? By a long shot, pie. I could take or leave cake pretty much any time. I don't really like chocolate cake. I don't like all the hubbub that goes on about cake. I used to work in a fancy bakery, and the cake stuff was, I didn't get to do it. And I'm glad. I did get to bake pies though, and I baked some pretty awesome pies. I don't like pumpkin pie though. I like a good fruit pie, like apple or peach or something like that. One that tastes like chewing tobacco. Have I ever played a bar mitzvah? I'm not sure if I have or not. I may have with the Silverhearts, but if I did, it was a long time ago, and I don't really remember it. So I'm gonna have to say no, although I may have. What's been the hardest food bank item to incorporate into a recipe? Well, I used to be the weird guy at the food bank who would take all the stuff nobody wanted because it was weird and exotic. Like, they give you a bag of milk and 6 eggs sometimes at the food bank, and I would say I don't drink milk, so I didn't want any milk. I didn't want any eggs. But give me the this or that, the stuff that nobody takes. I've gotten some really great stuff. I got a bag of Mexican key limes once. I did some baking with that. I can't say anything has been really hard. I love taking weird food and using off the beaten track recipes and making cool stuff. Yeah, I can't really think of anything, even stuff like sardines, like that's easy, So yeah, I can't really say anything that I got at the food bank was hard to use. A lot of it was really easy to use. I can go into that in greater detail at another time, but if you want to learn more about food bank cooking, I do have a playlist here. It's very old and the videos are very poor quality. But I do a little tutorial on how to make cool stuff out of food bank items somewhere in this channel here called Cooking in the Meth End of Town. Some of those recipes I'm going to redo, but yeah, I love food bank cooking. And the final question is John Lee Hooker or Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's an obvious John Lee Hooker. John Lee Hooker is one of the blues guitar players that he's probably, like, for modern electric guitar blues, he's probably my favorite. I've taken a lot of inspiration from John Lee Hooker. I did a cover of his Burnin' Hell song that kind of became my little hit on Mirkwood Recordings when they released my first album at midnight called The Doctor. I did a cover of that, and that's kind of been my hit. So Stevie Ray Vaughan, I cannot stand Stevie Ray Vaughan or the culture that surrounds him. Not that I didn't like his guitar playing, it was perfectly good. His songwriting I didn't particularly care for, but I also find a lot of blues people who play the blues really look to Stevie Ray Vaughan as the golden chalice, right behind Jimi Hendrix. Great guitar players, but I like to take my inspiration from much earlier times. And John Lee Hooker, his modern stuff was great. His early stuff was great. Can't think of a John Lee Hooker song I could say I dislike. So, definite John Lee Hooker on that. But yeah, there you go. This one question about the food bank item is baffling me. Some of the cooler stuff I've made from the food bank is I would make chicken pot pie out of cans of chicken noodle soup and make the crust out of saltines. And yeah, that was actually quite a popular recipe with a few people I knew. My kookiest recipe, I think, is, and I used to eat this all the time because when you're starving and you got to eat something, this was a really easy way to go. Go down to the convenience store where they sell hot dogs and shit like that. Grab a bunch of condiments, okay? Just grab a bunch of condiments from the condiment stand. Pretty much any condiment stand you can find ketchup and coffee creamers and salt and pepper, So grab a bunch of that. Then and I'd grab some relish packets too if they have them. And what I would do is I'd take the ketchup packets home, empty them all into a bowl, add some hot water, add a couple coffee creamers, and some salt and pepper, and then you have cream of tomato soup on the cheap, And then I would, usually you can find saltines, or you got a whack load of them from the food bank. They give those things out like crazy. And you take the relish and you make little sandwiches out of the relish and the crackers, and there you have the meth end of town light lunch of cream of tomato soup and cucumber sandwiches. Very la-di fucking da. Yeah, I love weird cooking. When I had to quit being a chef and cooking by the rules, I really dove deep into recipes from prison, old Depression era recipes, just weird stuff I'd make up on my own. Yeah, I totally switched my course of cooking for a fancy soul food restaurant to making ramen burritos and sweet and sour pork noodles out of ramen and what do they call those things? The pork rinds. And you add a little fruit punch powder and Pepsi to and sriracha sauce to the pork rinds. You microwave them until they're kind of, like they're not like pork rinds, but they're still kind of crunchy. And they have this sauce, this sweet and sour sauce. Pepsi, fruit punch powder, and sriracha makes a wonderful hot and sour sauce, believe it or not. Yeah, that was a good one. I like that. Sweet and sour pork noodles. You get a can of them mandarin slices too, and you sprinkle a few of them on top. Oh, it's just good. Candy. I used to get a lot of candy from the food banks. The one main food bank I went to, the guy knew I had kids, right? So he'd always throw me in a few extra handfuls of candy into my bag. And a lot of what you get with the candy is like hard candies like Jolly Ranchers and stuff like Starbursts. You get a lot of bubble gum, stuff like that. But if you take 2 Jolly Ranchers and 1 Starburst and you microwave them together and then you smash them all up together and you roll it into a ball, you have a wonderful jawbreaker. That's a really cool recipe. But yeah, anyhow, I just wanted to keep this short, and it's already 12 minutes long, so I'm going to close up because I got to get rolling up to the doctor. But I will see you all later, and thank you for your questions. And yeah, I don't know. I'll see you later for some reason or another. Be well, everybody.